read it up.
Not bad. I thought it was going to be. That's
All right, we are now recording.
All righty. Ladies and gentlemen, I now call to order our May 16th, 2022 meeting to order. It's 7:02 p.m. I ask you to join me in a moment of prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for bringing us together yet again. And Father, we thank you for the many blessings you bestowed upon our community. Certainly our children, one of whom we're going to recognize here tonight, a very special time for one of our future mayors and her family, we hope. But Father, we just thank you for the challenges. We know there's a lot of work left to be undone, and give this council the continued spirit to realize that these challenges are opportunities. And Father, we're grateful for the manner in which this council has been able to deliberate, agree, disagree over the last few months, and we pray that that will continue. We ask for these things, and Father, we're grateful for our town staff who does so much, our volunteer firefighters, our police, especially this week of all weeks, our police officers, all our public safety professionals. We're just blessed, and we thank you, and we ask for you to bless this meeting in the name of your Son and our Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
We invite you to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yes.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. We have two rather, I guess I'd say boilerplate, normal operating business public hearings. And tonight we're going to try something new for your viewing pleasure. Behind us is a screen. I don't know if it's working or not, but hopefully you're going to see some parts of the agenda. Is it working?
It's working.
It's okay. Fan.
That way I don't look.
Our first public hearing is basically a ratification of adopting a floodplain ordinance. Many of you may wonder, where does Blackstone flood? Well, occasionally you have floods in ditches and streets, but as far as a national floodplain, the town manager has explained to us there's only about 3/4 of an acre that's eligible for flood insurance, federal flood insurance. However, if we didn't adopt this ordinance, which we were in danger of waiting too late, it could hurt our chance of getting FEMA money after we have severe storms, tornadoes, or hurricanes, or ice storms. So,
We have advertised the planning commission because this is a zoning ordinance modification. It's an overlay. Two locations are, one is on Jason Walker's property at a junction at 460.
right.
A very small area there, and there's a small area on the creek bottom that runs, I think we call it Rocky Bump, that north of Route 40. There's a small area there. Altogether, it's less than 1 acre. We have scheduled public hearing for the planning commission and town council to do it. But indeed, the mayor and I both received a phone call that May 3rd was the deadline for finance purposes. Do we have anything pending? We do have about $283,000 still pending with FEMA from the ice storm.
Where were a year ago?
From the ice storm. I don't know if they would withhold that, but if in the event of a new disaster, they made it pretty clear that if it wasn't adopted by May 3rd, you guys actually adopted on May 2nd, so this is a ratification of an emergency call.
And this is a public hearing as well.
Yes, we did advertise it.
Right, so I will now declare the public hearing open. Anyone tonight want to speak for or against Blackstone adopting that which it really has to? Or any questions about it? Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. Members of council, do you wish to ratify the adoption of the floodplain ordinance?
So moved. Second.
Mr. Nash has moved. Mr. Miller is second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries 6-0. And just as a point of order, any ties tonight, Mr. Allman is away on business. Any ties tonight, the mayor will break. Hopefully there will be none. Public hearing number 2. This.
Attached legal notice soliciting comment and notifying the public that the final ordinance and map are potentially being adopted by town council tonight. The official public comment period expired on April 24th, 2022. Town staff has not received comments or complaints regarding the proposed boundary adjustments. If approved, the proposed map and ordinance will go into effect on June 4th, which is 30 days following the published date of the attached legal notice. And you can see there's a public notice that we ran in the newspaper stating that May 16th that the town intends to adopt this plan. It is Plan 1B, and the map is at the very end. We rewrote the ordinance, and quite lengthy. The second ordinance you see shows the portions that were stricken out, which is the existing ordinance that's being removed. And this is an amendment and reenact of that ordinance. That's why you see really two of them. One is a clean line one, and then the second one that you see attached is the one that Tessie actually wanted us to present, and that showed Ward 8 boundaries being taken out, and then the new Ward 8 boundaries coming in. Okay, so it's the same ultimate document, and the map you can see is a little turned sideways, but if anybody has any questions about it, it is Plan 1B, and this is the last one that the council had authorized us to move forward, and this is one that we've advertised on a couple occasions.
Yep. Every 10 years, ladies and gentlemen, there's a census to be taken. The lines always move a little bit. This year we lost a little bit of population. We had some wards that had to be, we wanted to make Ward C more compact. At one time, College Road split B and C. Now everybody down there is Ward C. But the most important thing that's going to be different this year is that for the first time, usually you vote in town elections in May. The state legislature has now made that November. With Blackstone's court-ordered wards, what we're proposing is that if you live in Blackstone, there's two places you go vote in a general election. You either vote at the back of the police station, or you vote at Blackstone Primary School. What this is going to do is keep that. But when you go into, there's some people that may live in Ward C, but don't vote in a town election in that building. You're going to go identify yourself. They'll say, oh, you're a Ward A voter or you're a Ward C voter, and here's your ballot. So the county is going to make sure at both these buildings in town that there are 5 different ballots.
Upon adoption, we'll have to sit down with Mr. Reynolds.
Yeah.
And explain this is the final, this is what's going on, and he's got his hand.
He does. It's a tough year.
Just as a point, for those folks that are in the audience looking at where you may live and where you may vote for town election and town related elections, Ward C and D are slated to be voting at the police department. Wards A, B, and E are slated to vote at the primary school. And we just did that because of proximity.
Right. But there will be some outliers. There will be the occasional person, and that's why the registrar is going to be prepared with a ballot. And what you don't want to do is have to tell people on election day in November, you get to go to 2 different places to cast your ballot that day, because they will only go to one. And the very first time I ran for election in 06, at that building right there, I kept track. 81 people came to that police station and said, oh no, I always vote here. Well, they do in the fall. And these were all echelons of society, and they were rather defiant. No, I vote here. I'm like, no, it's a town election. So hopefully this will make it simpler.
I'm sure the first go-round will be messy.
Right.
And people not knowing where to go.
But you vote early, you can avoid it all. You go vote early, you can avoid all of it.
So you're gonna most likely go vote where you would vote for presidential election and county election.
Correct. But there will be a few outliers. This is going to have to be. I would bet they're going to be in Ward E, which usually votes here. They're just going to be, it's not going to be perfect. But the registrar, like I said, he's got his hands full. So,
In the event there's a county and a town election for board of supervisors and for the town council at the same time, remember our wards do not
right.
completely reflect each other.
But that won't happen because they're both 4-year terms. They'll never coincide.
Won't.
That's the good news. If you had 4 and 2, you'd
It's a
coincide.
special election of some
Right.
sort to fill a seat.
Right.
And this is a public hearing? Yes.
All right, I'll declare the public hearing open. If there are any questions about where you live, those are answerable at the town manager's office for a more precise map. But any comments on the proposed redistricting map and the polling places? Hearing none, seeing none, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Members of council, what is your pleasure? We have 5 wards and 2 at large, and the mayor also is at large.
So we would want this motion to include approving the ward boundaries, the polling places, and the plan.
Correct. And I think that could be done with one motion. Who would like to make that motion?
So moved.
Mr. Nash has moved to approve the plan, the description of the wards, the polling places. Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Jones is seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. At this time, we have I'm going to skip the minutes. We'll get back to the minutes. We have a very special moment here, and I've always said that if a small town can't honor its children who do great things, then we ought to quit being a small town. But the Virginia Municipal League, and I understand we have a representative. Who is here from VML? Who is here tonight from VML?
Hi, Josette Bulldog with DML.
Okay, Josette, you can come to the podium. We're gonna, and I understand, is there a Kaylee Krotzer in the house? Is Kaylee in the house? Kaylee, would you like to come up? The Virginia Municipal League every year sponsors a contest. It's an essay contest. It's called If I Were the Mayor. And I became aware of this several years ago. And so I've made it my point to go to the 7th grade class. It's for 7th graders statewide. I go to Nottoway Middle School. I go to Kinston Forest. And just explain the essay, but more importantly, what mayors do in various towns, including Blackstone. And Cam Williams, in the last 6 years, has had 3 winners from Region 4. Or what we've had Region 4 and Region 8, because Kinston is kind of split. But this year, I went and spoke in March with the mayor of Crewe. And Kelly wasn't there that day. She was virtual. But let me tell you one thing. She didn't have to be in that room. You asked phenomenal questions. One of the things that was really dear to her heart is litter in Blackstone. And we've got a beautiful town, but I tell you what, if you walk certain streets, even downtown, on a windy day, it'll frustrate you. But Kaylee, she's 12 years old. She's the daughter of Matthew and Ashley Krotzer Oaks of Blackstone. And I'd like to turn it over to you, Madam VML, and anything you'd like to offer. We're glad to have you here.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. So like Mr. Mayor said, every year the Virginia Municipal League invites 7th graders from all across the state to submit their ideas on how to improve their town as part of the If I Were a Mayor essay contest. This year, the students were asked to identify a problem in their community and talk about it with another person and then propose a solution. It was a very competitive year with hundreds of submissions, but we thought Kaylee did the best job from Region 4. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand you this certificate. I'm going to say congratulations, Kaylee. And then there is a certificate and a button in here for you as well. So congratulations, Kaylee.
This is my last time around doing this. We've had 3 winners in 6 years, so we could get Madam Clerk to take a photo here, the 3 of us. And she said, no matter what it costs, we have to clean up the environment. It's where we live. And we appreciate her vision.
1, 2, 3. Well, let me do another. And do we want Miss Williams in the picture too?
We absolutely do want Miss Williams. Come on, Cam. She is one heck of an English teacher.
She taught me.
Oh my goodness.
Don't make me older.
She played in my wedding.
Oh my goodness.
That didn't work out, but that's
The music was great. Move to strike. Congratulations to you.
And a copy of Kaylee's essay will be posted in our May magazine that just went out. So check in your mailboxes and stuff like that. And it'll also be on our website.
I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Moving right along, that's visitor number 1. Any other, I think there's some other visitors who are going to address council. Anyone else tonight who wishes to address council? This is your time, and there's going to be a second opportunity at the end of the meeting. Thank you all for coming out tonight.
You can stay there.
Any other visitors tonight? I see someone. Okay, well, seeing none, we'll move on with our minutes. Go backward on the agenda briefly. I'm sorry, did someone have a hand up? I apologize. Come on up.
I missed you. I'm for 2nd Street.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Julie McLeod. I live on up on 711 2nd Street. I come down to ask y'all what can be done about the cats that is taking over our neighborhood.
That's a good question.
I have talked to, last year I was told to call Nottoway. And when I called Nottoway, Nottoway told me to call Burkeville. And when I called Burkeville, they told me to call Farmville. But I want to let y'all know, I do not pay taxes in Prince Edward County.
Amen.
I pay taxes to Nottoway and Blackstone. So now, the cats are beginning to multiply. And we are having cats running off. We can't even now put cushions on our front porch on account of the cats. Don't nobody want to go out on their front porch every time they gotta take the cushion, put them in the house. If they happen to go downtown and come back, they got a bunch of cat hair on their porch. So now, what can be done about these cats?
3 quick questions, and I'll try to help you best I can. Do you have a general idea, are they neighbor cats or just feral cats, stray cats?
It's a whole bunch of cats.
So you don't know that
We don't, our neighbor, there's two. Miss East couldn't be here, Miss Hughes couldn't be here tonight. She having trouble with cats, and I have cats, and all the cats are over there on the manor. They come from over in the manor, call across the street when they get ready, and ramble every which way.
Okay,
But we don't feed them.
fine.
Somebody to feed them, because cats don't hang nowhere that they can't eat. And somebody to feed them. But we want to know, what can we do about them?
Well, first of all, you've done the first good thing, and I'm so glad to hear you say this. I'm going to tell you a few things that are going to sound empty, but they're facts. Blackstone in 1995 adopted an ordinance that hadn't been enforced probably since 1995, that if you own a cat, it must have a collar with identification. Otherwise, it is to be deemed by law enforcement as a stray. The problem we've got is we're trying to have an animal control officer in Blackstone. We've identified somebody that was going to possibly do that for us. The problem we've had, not passing the buck, is if we're going to have an animal control officer, you know, cats and dogs don't just cause annoyances 9 to 5. We have to have after hours and weekend accessibility to the county shelter. And the county, from what I understand, has not been willing to give us that accessibility.
At this point, I spoke with Ted Costin and Sherman Vaughn and asked them about it, and they didn't like the agreement that Tessie had drawn up. Spoken with Chief about it, and I said, what did you think? And he said, hey, it is a little one-sided towards the town. So Ted said, rewrite the ordinance. It was kind of vague instructions, but that's what we need to do. We've presented an agreement. I say it's an ordinance, but it has not been approved by.
To our defense, it ought to be one-sided because we're doing a county function
Right.
Well,
at the cost of our taxpayers.
I don't know how the county actually handles cats, what their policy is on cats. But in Blackstone, dogs running it loose, and I've had calls in Ms. Williams' district recently. We've gone down there and checked on them a couple times, and went down there today to check. Dogs running it loose are not illegal in Nottaway County.
But they're in town limits, they are.
In town limits, and I don't think the county has, to my recent knowledge, been enforcing that running at large.
They did recently on Ridge Road. There was a dog attack, and
Well,
the
dog
county.
attack, if there's a bite or
Yeah,
something
they
like that,
did.
I think that does get
Right.
responded to, but just a general dog walking around.
Right.
I think that's a local ordinance and that's a town ordinance.
But one of the dilemmas we actually do, I know.
I want to ask you something. Is y'all, I took notice if a dog bites somebody,
And the
the
county,
animal control is here in Blackstone.
Yes, ma'am.
But
come.
what y'all doing, waiting for the cats to attack somebody before y'all decide to do something with them?
Great question. Great question. But I want everybody. But I want everybody here to.
They sit down and look at you like this, and they're sitting on your porch. And you become on your own porch. So who knows when they're going to try to attack?
And I'm not making this up. I want everybody to hear me loud and clear. And hopefully the next count, 1995. I kid you not, for the reasons you're describing, there was a resident on South Main Street, Dick Allenson. He lives right beside the house. It's kind of in bad shape right now. He was tired of washing his truck and having cats from all over get on his truck. This town didn't know what to do about strays, so they adopted a cat collar ordinance. And I would dare say there's 0 cats in Blackstone with collars on them. But the law states that they must. Also, no resident in Blackstone can have more than 4 dogs or cats or otherwise.
You better go over there and check on the man and make sure they put some tags on those cats, because
Right.
everybody they hang out at,
Right.
when they don't want to ramble all over the place.
I've got that problem in these.
And we've got 2 animal control officers in the entire county. And as you,
How did you respond to the situation in '95 with all those cats?
the council had a hearing, very controversial. We had one young man that's about my age come up and just blasted the council at that time, but council adopted the ordinance, and for a while,
Yeah, but I mean, the ordinance, the cats can't read the ordinance, so who enforced it?
the animal control officer did for a while. We had a town animal control officer at the time, briefly. But here's the problem also that I want everybody to hear this. Increasingly as a society, we're animal lovers, which is great. But not so long ago, 25, 30 years ago, you picked up a cat. If it wasn't claimed in 10 days, it was destroyed. Humanely, but destroyed. Now this shelter is a no-kill shelter in Nottaway County. No one is out there saying, I'd love to adopt a cat. Have y'all got any cats I can adopt? And it's a dilemma for the residents, the local government, and the county government.
It's all over.
See,
There's a
this is the
big,
problem. I don't own a cat.
Me either.
There's a big, I mean, like behind Goodwill and behind,
And I don't see why I got to be paying my taxes to the town and also to the county, and I got to, can't nobody say nothing about the cats.
You're right.
Because when you come to, you're supposed to make a complaint. We made a complaint last year, want nothing done by the cat, and I ain't about to. If we call Prince Edward to pick up a cat, Prince Edward come down here and pick up some cat, I'm gonna start paying my taxes to Prince Edward County.
And I tell you one thing, one other thing.
And I know y'all ain't gonna like that.
I think one thing that needs to happen, I'm not, and again, not trying to pass the buck, I think the passion that you're showing tonight here, people also have to go to the courthouse and show that same passion. Because you got told by Nottaway, if I'm not mistaken.
I was told by the town manager,
Right.
sitting right there, to call
Nottaway.
Nottaway.
That's correct, because they have the animal control.
And when I called Nottaway, they said they didn't have one for me to call Burkeville because that's where the new animal shelter was going up at.
That hadn't even broken ground yet. That's crazy. Whoever told you that ought to be.
So I don't know. And then when I called them, they told me to call Prince Edward County.
Yeah, unacceptable.
And
That's
I
unacceptable.
didn't call Prince Edward County because I don't pay my taxes in Prince Edward County.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. You were misinformed. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. As the mayor of Blackstone next Thursday night, I'm going to get on the agenda and relay your concerns and the concerns of others in these chambers to the Board of Supervisors. I'm going to ask the clerk if you'll notify the county that I'll be on the agenda next Thursday. Because we don't have a Department of Animal Control here in Blackstone, but the county of Nottaway does.
Yeah, but they can pick up the dogs.
And they
go-
need to pick up the
they go
cats.
there and pick a coat with the dogs last week, but they can't pick. Now, if we had a bunch of dogs running up there, they would be up there to pick up the dogs.
Right. And there's also a problem at the shelter, which we have, for 4 years, the county's been talking about building a new shelter. It's currently located at the dump, and I'm told the room they have for cats is very, very small. It doesn't have windows, which apparently is a big deal. But,
Why do they want you to take up collection for
for the new shelter,
the new shelter if they're not gonna take care of the cats?
outstanding questions. And you're,
That's a nice question for y'all to give me an answer to.
well, I'll tell you what, come on, will you come to the Board of Supervisors next Thursday? Because I'm going to be there 7 o'clock at the General District Court building. I'd love to have you there with me.
You gonna be
Next Thursday at 7 at May 26th at the General District Court building.
26? I won't be on.
That's all right. Well, I will represent
Because
best I
I'll be-
can.
I'll be going out of town to my granddaughter's graduation.
I will do the best I can, but I won't do as well as you did tonight, I promise you.
If I were here, I'd been up there knocking on your door.
Well, thank you, Ms. McLeod. We appreciate you. Thank you so much. And you speak for a lot of people. Yes, I see Mrs. Jean Lax at Pickett Court. It's good to see y'all here again. Are you enjoying your new speed bumps? Have the speed bumps worked yet?
You're kidding me.
I'm about to say.
I'm gonna tell you, you're gonna see me.
Do you mind coming to the podium just so they can record? People watch this on video. People can only hear on video if you come to the podium.
I am going to be here every day, every Monday, or whenever you have your meeting, until I get what I want. When am I getting them? And I don't want one or two, I want four.
Yeah, cause
There is no way in the
Yep.
world.
One at a time,
Where
one at a
you
time.
going, Philip?
I'm just gonna stand next to you and
Oh,
just try
okay.
to explain to you.
Okay, explain to me.
If it pleases council, if you guys remember the policy we adopted about the speed bumps, we hid the 5% or the 10% of the citizens that were here in the audience, so we passed it on to B&B, and B&B is our engineer, and that's the next step in that policy, turned over to the engineer, and the engineer comes up with a plan, and that's what we're waiting on.
And the plan would be where to place them.
Yeah. Where to place them and how many and all that sort of
Well,
thing.
you're gonna wait until school's out.
No,
in
that'd be
again
before then.
you do it?
I hope not.
Because our kids are starting to ride bicycles.
Yes, ma'am.
Again, and they're right there in that curve. And 2 are not gonna do it. You need 4. And I'm gonna
Okay.
get 4.
Well, we're gonna turn it over to B&B and get the recommendation and see what council
And
decides.
they're gonna be where I think they should be put, not where the town thinks they should be put.
Okay,
Okay?
well,
Well, I think anyone,
Certainly-
my personal opinion is if you're a resident of Blackstone and you have a speeding problem in your neighborhood and you want a speed bump in your neighborhood that you're gonna have to drive over yourself, I think that's a powerful argument in favor of a speed bump.
Paul was telling me about you had speed bumps over at this school. So I went over there the other day, and I want to ask you personally. I want you to be honest with me.
Okay.
I came in from School Street, and I came over the speed bump. What did you do when you first go over a speed bump?
Slow down, you're supposed to.
Yeah, most people speed up. And I'll be honest with you, I would have sped up if I hadn't seen the other speed bump,
Okay.
okay? I'm being honest.
So you're saying after you go over the speed bump, you accelerate,
Right,
and that's why you're saying you need another speed bump.
yeah.
I agree with you totally, but that argument, if you start applying that argument on all 56 street miles in Blackstone, that can get quite cumbersome. But
But I mean, Pickett Court has got so many kids in it.
you're right.
And even people who say we need to slow down, I've seen one lady speed through Pickett Court that lives in Pickett Court, and she knows where the kids are.
She needs a ticket, does she not, Chief? Chief, do y'all do radar on Pickett Court from time to time?
From time to time.
Have you had tickets over there? But
That I can't recall, man.
could we maybe, while we're waiting for the speed bumps for at least the 2 speed bumps, maybe 4, but at least 2, could we maybe run some extra radar over there to see how? Just
You need at least 3. You really do.
okay,
2 just won't do it, but you do need 3.
okay.
Because
Yes, Micah.
Say something.
Yes.
I have to stand up.
Hey, well, you don't mind. Just it's not for our benefit; it's for the benefit of those watching
Okay.
later. And you're Micah Lax, right?
Yes, my papa's granddaughter.
Yes.
Okay, I'm not trying to be mean or anything, and I'm not trying to be rude, but we need 4. My papa even said 4, and a couple other people said 4, and I'm just saying, if some kid gets hit, I'm going up higher or something because we need these. Like, I was walking with my niece. She's 1 year old. She almost got hit. And they are going the wrong way. And it has one way right there.
Right. Clearly.
Yes. Like, I'm not even joking. And I'm just so tired of my papa stressing about us. Because we're going to get hit.
You're right there in the horseshoe. Yeah.
Yeah. We can't barely walk or do anything. My papa's stressing about us getting hit.
And the irony about this whole conversation is one of the dilemmas we had years ago was getting the fire trucks through there because there were so many
Yes.
vehicles parked. I would have thought that would have almost been a deterrent to speeding because you can't go there without clipping someone's door, but apparently it's not anymore.
once you get through the cars,
Yes.
go.
And can I ask you another thing?
Yes.
Are these going to be, because my papa told me to ask you too, are these going to be the small things or the big ones? Because the small ones, they can just go through. The big ones, they won't.
I think they're gonna be what's like over at the ball field.
I'm gonna guess it'd
If
be.
you hit those pretty good, it's gonna hurt.
Okay. I just want to know because my papa told me to ask y'all.
But,
Those are approved VDOT traffic calming devices that are over there, so I don't know if there's multiple types of, but I would
but
assume.
I would appreciate
Oh,
before they
yeah.
decide if they're gonna do it,
Yeah.
I want to show them where I think they should be.
Yeah, my papa
Because I
said
know
the same
where
thing.
most of the
Let's make sure B&B, besides just walking and looking, talks to some people who live there and see the speed. Let's make sure.
Yeah.
Can we make sure B&B does maybe some interviews? And I would start at 17 Pickett Court.
No, start at number 4.
Okay, I'm just talking about people to talk to
Oh, yeah.
because y'all see it.
Okay, I'm just saying some of them, I don't know when they're gonna be home because when we are outside, most of them are not home. It's just kids there.
We can, if you can leave your contact information, we can make sure that the clerk and we can make sure the town schedules with B&B either a phone call or a time that someone could be home. We do take this serious, and we're sorry the wheels of progress do grind slowly. They just don't grind slowly in Pickett Court. Apparently, they can fly. But we thank you. And we're
Thank
on
you.
this.
I appreciate you.
I'll be at your next meeting too, son.
And this is new, just for the audience benefit. For years, it was not allowed. People talked about speed bumps. You see speed bumps in parking lots at hotels. I want that in Blackstone. VDOT for years would not let you do that. Now we can do it legally. We just want to make sure we do it right and fair. And also, not every street, because of maintenance concerns, will be able to have one. You don't want one on Main Street, even though that'd be a great place for one. But we thank you. We got to
Thank
move.
you.
We got to move along. But thank you so much.
Excuse me, do you have any kind of timetable when you do expect
Yeah.
them to get back to you on their recommendation?
When do we anticipate B&B?
Next 30 days, man.
Within the next 30 days. And we thank y'all. I know it's frustrating. I see one more hand up. If you could come forward, sir.
Yeah, you're talking about speed bumps.
Is this Mr. Asher Maddox? I don't have my glasses. If you could come forward to the podium. Yes, sir. And I want one in Taylor Bottom, because I've talked to a lot of folks in Taylor Bottom that say they're speeding down Carver Street.
I didn't understand.
I've had a lot of people tell me people are speeding down Carver Street.
They speed down every street. Somebody's like, excuse me, like that lady said, somebody gonna get killed. Yesterday, excuse me, two fools come up the street, one laying on top of the car, and you couldn't see nothing but speed.
Lord.
I'm tired of it.
Would you, and I should know this, but do you live on Carver?
I live on Patterson. I mean, Taylor.
Taylor,
I live
no,
on Taylor.
Jason.
They come down Carver, when they come up and come up Taylor,
Right.
they come up Taylor, Indianapolis 500.
Okay.
That's what it is.
Right. I think we need that you. I support speed bumps. Anybody, as means we can afford.
And they begin to have a lot of gun shooting over there on Carver Street.
I know.
A lot of gun shooting.
Yeah. We've heard the calls. I know the police hear it, and sometimes the police actually. One night the police.
An officer need to be down on Taylor Street right there when they make the turn.
Okay.
Somewhere in that turn down there.
Okay.
And if you come down there late in the afternoon, you hear gunfire anywhere.
Is some of the speeding late at night? Do you think late? Is it all hours of the day? When is the speeding at its worst?
Anytime they feel like it.
Okay. We appreciate.
Anytime.
All right. But could we count you down as being in favor of a speed bump or speed bumps?
Put anything there you want
Okay.
to stop.
Let's add Carver and Taylor to that list. Because like I said, when a person lives on a street and is willing to go through the inconvenience of a speed bump, because speeding is so bad, in my opinion, the town should say, yes, indeed, that we should do it.
It's getting to the point that you can't. I wish I could move out.
Well, and that's the thing. It's about quality of life, and if you don't enjoy where you're living, that's not good for this town.
If my house wasn't paid for, I'll move out.
Well, hang with us, Mr. Maddox. Hang with us. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Mr. Miller.
Is there any way we can get some police protection detail about them?
Chief, I know you've done some speed surveys in town. Could you? I know we're throwing a lot at you tonight. Could you maybe make a concerted effort at the head of Taylor and Carver up there on North High, Sullivan?
Got it down already?
Okay.
Yep,
All right.
we can do that.
All right.
Gave him praise in the prayer, and now you're giving him all the work to do.
Well, we try to balance it out. We try. Who else tonight? This is the first of two opportunities for public comment. This will not be the last. Seeing none, we will move on to our adoption of our minutes, and they're plentiful in your packet, and
And I'm sure y'all read them from cover to cover.
they're spot on.
Cover to cover.
Let's entertain a motion to approve.
Move to approve of the 6 minutes.
Second.
To receive, approve, and adopt as presented. Any clarifications or questions? None. Well, if you miss a meeting, you can always go back and read what happened. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries 6-0. We have our fire chief, Dion Tomer, with us. Chief Tomer, last time I saw you, we were shivering together on the golf course.
Yes, very much so. All right. I'm sure I did nowhere close to your.
I don't know. We had fun. It was great.
And on that note, our golf tournament was a great success. I want to say 15 teams actually showed up, and it was a good turnout. Other than the weather, I believe all that participated had a good time.
Great.
New business-wise, the county is currently looking at adopting the statewide fire code. I'm just giving you a heads up. When they do move forward with this, it's probably going to trickle down to the town level to approve that code as well. And the rationale behind this is that a code will be in place for the building inspector to be able to enforce. Because he just attended the training, is pushing to enforce this. And currently, like our Knox box resolution, we did put in there that you can receive a fine, but he is the code official and he could not provide a fine. So that was just all come to light recently. So he received a training, and now they're going to try and implement the statewide fire code for the county and trickle it down to the towns. One of the issues that I think that was brought up was fireworks, and we were unable to find any town code on fireworks. So this is going to also incorporate that as well into the fire code. The engine 3, we're finally again counting down the the days, I would say. We have a representative from Pierce currently at the fire station teaching individuals how to pump the engine and how to operate it, and we have another training class tomorrow night. Advertisements will go to your email. We're shooting for the 18th of June for the final push-in. This is a ceremony to get the apparatus into service. We're looking at about 1 o'clock on the 18th, and as soon as we push it into the station, it's going to officially be in service from that point.
Fantastic.
We had our ladder test-in held on Friday. This is one of those annual recurrent things that we have to do between our air packs, ladders, hose, nozzles, pumps. All that is required to receive annual tests and inspections. So it's a huge part. When we do get the aerial device, it's a little bit more money because there's a lot bigger ladder on it. But this just ensures safety with NFPA standards and reduces liability to the town of Blackstone.
That's great.
Corner Kitchen, I'm sure you saw on Facebook, did a luncheon yesterday for the members that could attend. This was an excellent time for those that were able to go. This was an appreciation for us coming to their fire that they had in the back of their building. And it looks like they're progressed pretty quickly to ensuring that they could get back open here in the short future.
Very good. Very good.
Multiple members doing training. Regretfully, as you could tell, all that training's outside of Nottoway County. We have them going to Dinwiddie, South Hill, and I'm not too sure where the hazmat awareness is. But Buddy Hyde, our emergency services coordinator, is really pushing to bring some of that into town limits or into the county to prevent a lot of people from having to drive all the way to South Hill or otherwise. Speaking of South Hill, I'm sure you also saw that on Facebook where an engine and their chief ride got struck on 85. Probably totaled their chief's pickup truck and a good amount of damage to their engine. I want to say there was a total of 7 patients involved, but none of them were any volunteers. It just highlights the risk of any type of operation on the side of the road. The new engine has really surprised me. It has some kind of device in it. If you operate Waze, if the engine's parked on the side of the road with the lights on, it automatically puts incident ahead on the map of Waze.
That's great.
So they're really trying to reduce this, but I think no matter what, it's just becoming a very common thing to have roadside incidents with apparatus and police vehicles getting struck. I want to say probably Lee Scott was the last one I can remember that got struck many years ago. I made a mention about Crew fire hydrants. I was astonished when I drove through the town of Crew and they had them flow tested. It's a huge step in ensuring the quality of water or the fire flow coming out of a fire hydrant. We all wish we could just hook up to a hydrant and expect great water flow, but that's not always the case, and it all depends on the size of the water main that goes to it. You have downtown Blackstone on fire, you want the fire hydrant that gives the most gallons per minute coming out of it. And surprisingly, from my understanding, it's not Main Street. It's the street behind Main Street. So it's just the NFPA testing actually color codes the hydrants to the amount of flow that comes out of them. So you don't have to memorize this. You could look at a hydrant and see it's painted red, green. Yeah. You know how much water is going to come out of that hydrant. The current hydrants in town that are painted were painted by members, and it's painted based on the size of the main that feeds that hydrant. It has nothing to do with the flow. We're just hoping a bigger main would give more flow.
Right.
So it's definitely something that I think the town, regretfully over 500 hydrants in town, but the main street or the industrial sections are the ones that we really need to see which hydrants would perform best for pre-planning, and if there is an incident, we know which ones we need to use.
In my youth, we participated. We did do some
remember
flow
that.
testing, but
I remember that.
it's way over 5 years. I mean,
I want to say 20. I want to say Walter Mack, when he was first got chief, was one of his initiatives. When you say the street behind Main Street, are you referring to North High Street or High Street?
Yes. Yeah.
So in other words, if you had, God forbid, I hate talking like this, if you had a major Mitchell's type fire, y'all would be going on the hydrants on High Street, not Main Street.
And the problem is, mentality-wise, on the way you drive is the closest hydrant is the one you're going to grab. But when it comes to planning purpose, my next engine, I need to say, I want you to grab this one to get the most amount of water to us.
So you recommend that we need to do a fire code, a color coding based on the flow, not the main?
Correct. And the main was just our guys driving around saying,
makes sense.
We need to at least know what we're gonna use.
Right.
And I want to say we did Church and Main primarily, but the fire flow is a recommendation. It's always been a recommendation through NFPA to have that. So, but
I'd like to refer that to the Fire and Water Committee to come up with some sort of plan, maybe. Can we refer that to the Fire and Water Committee? I believe that's Mr. Allman. Who's Fire and Water Chair? That's
I believe it is.
it's Mr. Allman. Jacob Allman's chair of that.
If I could just touch on two things with you, Chief. The Jennifer Hardy and I had a conference call with Tara Delaney. If you remember, we had an expectation of a grant, the $500,000 that we had gotten plus the additional Spanberger appropriation. We were called back and said, no, it's only going to be the Spanberger portion plus and not the fleshed out 55%. They have not given us a definitive in any way, but she did say they are discussing going back to a larger award. So keep your fingers crossed, and there's no guarantees on any of it, but that would provide us the ability to outfit the truck.
That would be spectacular.
As the truck is already purchased. So without much prodding from us, other than the initial complaints or concerns passed on to Spanberger people, but I think what Tara has said, that several of the Congress folks in town, or in the state, have called inquiring about similar type issues. So that's not over with, and but I certainly wouldn't spend the money just yet.
And we're scheduled to go in September for the pre-build.
Oh, cool.
So that's going to be,
Wisconsin.
Yeah,
For the ladder truck.
for the ladder truck.
In September now, the Packers are playing football. So you might get that's even better.
And on the ladder truck wise, my next notation is that Town of South Hill just purchased a rescue truck, a heavy rescue. And that's coming in, is what I'm being told, $1.6 to $1.8 million for a rescue truck, which is pretty much our Rescue 10, which is a 1999 Hackney, I believe. It's a modified beer truck. So things aren't looking good when it comes to equipment replacement, but fortunately, I think with Buddy, there is finally going to be discussions of a tax levy. Not this year. They're going to wait. And the goal is to have a capital improvement plan through the county as well for apparatus placement. So the whole burden wouldn't just be on the town of Blackstone. So, and kind of have all departments involved and have a true capital improvement to ensure apparatus replacements on schedule.
Very good. Any questions of the chief on his report tonight? Good. Chief, anything else you want to add?
That's it.
Thank you so much, Chief.
All right, thank you.
We will move right along to the payment of bills. You have the first batch of bills not yet approved totaling $738,309. I'd entertain a motion to approve. Mr. Morgan has moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Jones has seconded. Discussion?
I see several expenditures for patrol bikes for the police department. I take it we're going to start patrolling with bicycles again in the future?
Again, they had some minor modifications we need to make and replacements, but yes, we have to.
Everybody's got good balance?
I think so.
Couldn't resist, Chief. I'm just playing. Any other questions? I'll need a roll call vote. I believe tonight we start with, is it Ms. Scott?
Ms. Jones.
Ms. Jones? Do you support the motion? Aye?
Yes. Yay.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Motion carries 6-0. And the next batch of bills to be paid, they total $221,508.11. These are bills to be paid. They're broken down by department. They're in your packet. And anyone at any time can see these from Town Hall or look above me, behind me. Is there a motion to approve the bills as presented?
So moved.
Mr. Miller has moved. Is there a second? Second. Ms. Scott? Ms. Scott has seconded. Questions?
You look at me. The bunk room supplies, is that passed through with ARPA money?
I think Jennifer can answer, but
If it wasn't
there was some
requested
intention.
prior, no. She's already set back the money for the CARES money, that's what paid for the bunk room.
Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, if you'll poll the council.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0. Under, let's see here, appropriations, there are none. I want to do one thing, folks, just to save time. Bobby Thomas, you're here tonight, aren't you? Bobby Thomas is here. I don't know how long Bobby's planning on staying. I want to say two things. Bobby donated so much of his time and expertise about the history of this town. And we had 50 visitors, about 40 visitors from Wyoming that were passing through Blackstone on their way to a national conference this past Friday, the National Main Street Now Conference. And Bobby and Justin Seraphin gave guided tours of the Carriage Museum and Swartz Tavern. And I'm going to go ahead and just skip to my mayor's minute now. Not looking for a vote or anything tonight. But I told Bobby and I had a good lunch the other day. I want to really implore this council, beg this council, in the budget that starts July 1st, if we could have at least 2 positions. Some of them might actually be internships through Longwood or other places working with Bobby, to have those museums staffed. It's not only, in my opinion, I hate to use words like morally, but promises were made. We lived up to our legal agreement. There's no doubt about that. I've read the contract. But I think morally we have really, in the last decade, a lot of it was budget related, a lot of it was prior councils. I think we've let the Thomas family down. But even putting that aside, just put that argument aside, which to me is a very powerful argument. We've got the folks that are going to start filling beds here June 1st on Lunenburg Avenue, August 1st at the end at Blackstone. And I think we've got to give it a good try for, I say, 2 to 3 years and let people know that, yes, we have the museums, the signs are not fiction. So if I could just, I really urge the Finance Committee to try to put that in the budget. And I talked to Bobby the other day, and I think the ideal hour starting out would be Thursday through Sunday, something like 11 a.m. to 5 p.m., maybe go to 6, just Thursday through Sunday. But you got to have those weekends. It may grow, but you're not going to catch fish unless you throw bait in the water.
If I may very quickly, in the budget this year, and I don't know if it's DBI, Tourism Director, the proper way to describe it or put it in there, we have been given just a flat amount, $3,300 or thereabouts a month to DBI.
Right.
And I think Eric brought up several months ago, to try to make that a full-time position. And I would anticipate that person would be responsible for the museum.
Right.
It's now just a part-time position responsible to DBI. The budget that I'm working on, and Jennifer's working on, does have a full-time position paid $50,000 a year with benefits that's included in that budget. I don't know if that's enough to satisfy what you're asking, but there
Bobby
is-
maybe to find some of the, there are some possible internships out there that won't cost a town a dime, but I think whoever we go through, Bobby knows the history. I mean, it's just a fact. Bobby knows the history, and I just think, I'm not just saying it because Bobby's here and because I told Bobby I'd say it. I really truly believe in it, and I
think that position would also have a role with the armory
right.
and the tavern and all of it together.
And DBI as well, which
In
is
DBI.
what,
Yep. That's the intention, and I think that's where we're at right now.
Would this employee do the tours?
I would expect them to, yeah. Now, they're probably not gonna be there 7 days a week, and there'll have to be some coordination.
We have to have some volunteers or some low cost minimum wage or students. I know we're talking to VSU and some other institutions.
Schedule.
They would be responsible for coordinating getting people there at the museums. I think we heard that we want to see more folks in there
Right.
and more folks staffing, and maybe make it a portion DBI. And we've run this by field. I think it's
I have a
chairman.
meeting with them on Thursday at 2 o'clock, so.
I don't want to get in the weeds tonight, but I just want to get out there, just broad concept. It's the right thing to do, and it's the right thing to do because it's also the right thing for Blackstone. Not just for the Thomas family honoring what 4 councils ago. It's the time is now, and I wanted to give you that spiel. So getting back to the agenda, under appropriations, there are none. We have several committee reports, but there are only very few recommendations. But the Airport and Transportation Committee has a report. They toured the airport facility, I don't know if we need to get bogged down in that tonight, do we? I think a lot of us have got I'm not quite comfortable with what I read yet.
But I added that as an agenda item later on too, so.
Okay,
That would be new business number 7.
okay. Anything that anybody cares to say on the Airport and Transportation Committee? I understand it was a nice tour.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of work going out there, just so you know. The town has applied for and received a $458,000 grant to redo the taxiway and fueling apron, which is kind of the asphalt portion of it. It is a large concrete area.
Right.
I think the ladies came out there and looked at it with us, and obviously Jacob with us. That project, they've got it down to final grade. They were working on it. The next step is that there's 2 shots of tar and gravel that'll go down, believe it or not, and then ultimately an asphalt overlay with tie downs to be put in. I anticipate it being completed before the end of the fiscal year. I did tell Jennifer we may have a drawdown that comes in after the 1st of July, but the contractor has done a really good job, and the engineers are satisfied with them, and by all accounts, and I've never seen it done this way, where they've actually ground up the material and then are adding concrete to it and then rolling it. It's really a different way of doing it instead of putting a lot of rock in the base, and so the project's moving forward, and I would say we're probably 40% done.
That's
Can
great.
the airport committee put it on their agenda to look at the town rental of hangars? The $100 is quite antiquated.
This goes back
And
a
with the cost of the buildings nowadays to repair them, that needs to be visited, I believe.
I think we need like lease agreements or some kind of
Absolutely.
lease agreements for
There
the
is one, yeah.
hangars, cause we've got new, auditing requirements.
All of them are full, and people stay in them because it's $100 a month. I mean,
Well, I think there's been some movement. I've talked to Joe about it a couple times. If we want to build some new hangars, we got to create because the state won't pay for hangars. Well, if you look at the comparisons, we don't have concrete floors. We don't have bird-proof top where bird poop on your airplane, all those kinds of things. So we're lacking a few things, but it's the chicken or the egg. Do you make the capital investment first and hope for the return with a higher rent? So yes, it's
for
probably
years, I mean, I don't know what the history, but for all I know, it's always been $100 as long as I ever remember.
It's
So
25 years ago.
I would like for the committee to look at it.
The way rent's going in Blackstone, you'd say $100 and folks might move out there.
They'll move it.
They may say, you know what? At least summertime. Yeah, Mr. Nash with a great point. Great point. Moving on to Buildings, Property, and Cemetery Committee. And another thing I just came to my mind. Getting back to what I talked about earlier, I would like this council, this under Buildings and Property, following along the museums, I would like this council, certainly no later than the June meeting, I want to set a date where we can go out and have a social event, Dutch treat, but we call a meeting, but the prelude to us breaking bread together would be a tour of the museums by Bobby Thomas. Bobby's agreed to do that, and I would like for us at the June meeting to set a date, maybe the 1st of June, somewhere in July, early or late June, and get with Bobby. And so, because a lot of us have not been in there in years. I learned things the other day watching a tour that I hadn't heard before. So anyway, getting back to, I apologize for being all over the place, but getting to the Buildings and Property and Cemetery Committee, there were some reports. There's work going on at the library and the medical center roof. Any recommend?
It's nearly done. I think they got rained out a little bit last week. We did have one change order of $2,800. The last time the gutters were put up many years ago, there was actually a fascia board that was ornamental, and so it didn't tie in directly to it. So much of the water from the roof was actually going beyond the gutters in a heavy rain. So we've taken that off and put a flat fascia board to bring the new roof line and the gutters in, so it'll actually flow completely into the gutter. Capital projects in the budget so far is a roof at the fire station, or a re-roof, or a spring. We got to figure out. I've got $115,000 currently, and that was a cost estimate given us by the same contractor that's working at the library. And we may have to do a portion of it. Lonnie asked me if we do half of it one year, and that may be the way we end up doing it. And then replacing the roof of the tavern. I would also like to let you know that there are other repairs at the tavern that Robert pointed out that I need some assistance on the historical side of it. I've had a gentleman from Bronson Construction come and look at it. It looks like it's sheetrock that's up there, because if you look where the crack is around it, it looks like a 4x8 sheet of sheetrock. But I wanna get in there and start ripping stuff out, and I'm gonna ask for a little assistance from Brian Green. I think we're gonna ask him,
Very good.
while he's doing armory type things, to go over here and help us, make sure we're not violating any of our historic register requirements. So,
Good point.
obviously, the construction of the roof, the other portion of it, can begin any time, and I think Brian's gonna be here in town on the 25th.
Okay.
Sea Park, there was some discussion about going out to Sea Park and taking a look at maybe doing some hardscapes and try to find more appropriate plantings around the windows and things like that. We got a lot of beds out there, and we're gonna go back out there and take a peek at it. The armory, I reported to the group that we have met with Virginia State, and Virginia State verbally has said that they are interested in having a hospitality presence in the armory. Avery University did not give us that kind of warm and fuzzy. We've been talking to them for many years or months. We have an expectation this is gonna turn out pretty good. I think it's on the 25th when everybody's gonna be in town. I can give you the exact dates, and I'll email them for committee members if they wanna join.
Yeah,
or
I'd like to
whatever.
know about that.
It's starting to show some promise with Virginia State. Also, we formally received notice that the $250,000 grant for abatement 3 months after we announced it previously, has finally come through, so I expect an agreement, hopefully at the June meeting, that you guys can sign off on, so we can start the process of getting that work done.
I think people are anxious to see something happen.
Yeah. They're doing engineering and all of those kind of things, but, we really need to get the building cleaned out before even they start construction. So,
That gentleman that was here, Eric Paul, is that his name?
Yes.
He had said something in that meeting about Virginia Tech, you remember, and they had tried to work with VOTech, and they may have more funds to help
They may
provide
have
like a
some additional-
bigger kitchen area.
That may be.
They have a
one
huge
piece of-
hospitality segment at Tech, that's for sure. But of course, VSU's right down the road, so it's
Virginia
a
State
natural.
has a huge one too now.
Yeah, and it's right down the
Virginia
road.
State,
That's who we're talking
that's
about.
it.
Yeah.
They have a
They-
whole hospitality
They have
program
not
too.
committed any monies, and we have not asked them for any monies, but the relationship and the agreement may bear some fruit.
It might be good to what Mr. Nash said. Not that we need to be chasing conspiracy theories, but I think it'd be nice if under ongoing projects, if we could from this point on add Armory as a regular monthly ongoing project. So because I know that's going forward, but a lot of people, like you say, they don't see it. They worry about election coming up. You know, Mr. Nash has made it clear there's not going to be any attempt to, I think everybody's bought in. But when you, like I say, when you don't see something happening, people with the history of the building, they get a little nervous.
It's happening.
Sprinkler systems, why are we putting sprinkler systems in the medical center and the fire station?
Irrigation. It needs to be irrigation.
Oh, I was like, okay.
Just
They're already there. They
Okay.
just need to be
And,
revamped.
we'll go ahead and we'll try to get that done. I was really expecting the Dorn Landscaping here locally to be interested, and I don't think they are. I've spoken with Lance about it, so I think we're gonna have to cast a wider net to find somebody like Stamy Lighting or one of these types of groups.
There's smaller people out there that will do it.
There may be smaller folks out there. I don't think it's brutally difficult to do it. It's more if lawnmower hits a sprinkler head or something like that, and weatherizing and de-weatherizing. And then Mr. Neal, we did discuss, and I think the family came in by phone and discussed a plaque for Mr. Neal, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, the intention was to try to do a bench of some sort, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
And Carol Lyons, did a great job and got us 3 prices. I think the question was, how much is this gonna be? And it does not include a plaque, but I've seen bids for durable, benches, metal benches, from $1,017 up to $1,600. So that's the kind of number that.
To be placed outside here, outside the town
I don't
hall?
know if the location was ever determined.
Yeah, they wanted it
They
out
wanted it
here,
out
and then
there.
if the armory does ever, if the chambers ever relocates maybe to the armory, that the bench be movable
There you
as well. But I think we could also, I had emailed Justin Seraphin about, cause you had said the benches in, Town Square. And they have a plaque on those, I think, and they said that came from Watkins. So I think Watkins could do something
do the
like,
plaque.
could do,
Yeah,
like
3D
something
printer, they
like
could
that
do.
there.
I got a question, because there's another concern about this. Now, the Neal family, I understand now, they're taking this project up on themselves, right?
It was in question.
They approached me, they've approached the town, it's a partnership. It's, Mr. Neal was the lead plaintiff.
Right, I understand that.
yeah.
But what I'm asking the question about, you remember we discussed that we were gonna do Constance Wynn and Clarence Hawks too?
Yes, but the mayor said that was gonna be brought back up, I think, in June or July.
I think what happened is Ms. Beverly Am several months ago asked me, the audience pointed out a number of worthy individuals. And let's face it, we're blessed with a number of worthy individuals from throughout Blackstone. My comment that night